I'm Jai Fan,
And I'm Tseng.
and this is our programming contest submission, a game called Color Cross. Color Cross is a puzzle game of colors in a grid. You can make moves and discover patterns in practice mode, or challenge yourself in scramble mode to try to get the board one color as fast as you can. If you like puzzle games or play the Rubik's Cube, you'll enjoy the challenge of Color Cross. And if you don't like it, you get your money back. So where did this game come from? We weren't sure what we wanted to do at first, so we considered many ideas and looked at a lot of other games. We looked at past programming contest submissions like Puzzle Hack, which ended up being an inspiration for this project. We wanted a simple game that we could develop in depth. One night, I settled on an idea. The next morning, with about 20 minutes of coding, the first prototype of Color Cross was done. Except it wasn't called that yet. So here it is. Oh yeah, I made a grid of numbers. I can move in the center by pressing 5, and it adds 1 to the center and also the surrounding numbers. I can keep doing this until I reach the maximum of 4, and after this, it loops back down to 1. I can move the top left corner by pressing 1. The exact same thing happens there. I can even combine moves by moving the entire top row, and at this point it just becomes a giant mess. That's the basic idea of the game. Moving in a cross pattern like this was arbitrary, but it seemed to work well. I decided the goal of the game was to get every square the same. I then did some theorizing to make sure that the game was solvable and that it didn't have too many flaws, and everything seemed fine.
Meanwhile, I was trying to figure out how to use UI control. I learned UI control by looking at Puzzle Hack's code.
After learning the basics, we realized the potential of UI control. We wanted to be able to have multiple screens and move between them, so we had to come up with an original way to structure our code. After a ton of trial and error, we figured out a robust way to have multiple screens, and the game really came together. All of our code is original as a result. We use a shared folder on Google Drive to collaborate, and we use a Google spreadsheet to track our progress, and just tick the boxes as we went along. I'll give you a quick tour of the finished game. We're going to do default settings. You can go into practice mode and you get to see the moves you make on the right side here. That's pretty cool. There's also scramble mode, so you can challenge yourself and try to get the board back to solved. I'll just do a solve real quick. 4.2 seconds, not bad. And, oh, you didn't make the top 5. So this is referring to the leaderboards, or the high scores. So this is all stored in a .mat file, and there's a few pages here. You can try to beat my times. The settings are also stored in a .mat file, so if numbers give you anxiety, you can turn those off. If you don't like the animations that I put so much time into, you can turn those off too. And that's pretty much the game. That's it for the game demo. Let's talk about the structure of the code.
This is the main structure of the code. We have a global variable which determines what screen you're on. Once you press a button, it changes this global variable, and then a switch statement sends you to the correct screen. Everything on the screen is placed based on ratios, so when you resize the screen, all the ratios are maintained. But if you squish the window too much, you can break things. So as long as you resize within reason, the game will be fine.
A crucial yet simple part of our code is color transitions. A particle travels through the RGB color space from its current color towards a target color in a line. Pretty straightforward. Here's the demo in MATLAB. Okay, I lied. They actually move in curves to brighten up the intermediate colors, but it's the same idea. And I'll quickly touch on debugging, which I spend a lot of time doing. When debugging, you want to forget what you think your code is doing and look at what it's actually doing. A simple way to do this is to put display statements everywhere. There's more advanced ways to debug, but sometimes this is all you need. I'll go over some internal changes. When we first started, we had a sea of global variables, which are shown in blue. I later cleaned this up and replaced them with local variables. We also use global variables as configurable constants, and this was replaced by storing constants in the properties of a separate class. Our code still has a few globals, but it's much better. This also allowed us to split up our game from one big file into smaller files. Although these changes don't affect functionality, they clean things up and make the code easier to work with and maintain. Overall, this is to give you an idea of where we spent our time. MATLAB's not meant for making games, so we had to make everything from scratch, instead of using a game engine where the foundation's done for you. But sometimes doing things the hard way is more fun, at least for the first time. Making Color Cross was a great experience. Go download the game if you're interested and play around. In the zip file, we've included older versions of the game, design drawings, documentation, a solution, and more. I hope you learned something and enjoy the game. Thanks for listening.